And we continue at 2:05 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wings in Culver City.
John, the city of Oakland just broke a new record, but it's not a good one. City of Oakland has made a record $7 million settlement with a bicyclist that hit a pothole.
Seems about right.
Are they going to fix the potholes? Of course not. They're just going to keep settling lawsuits.
Oakland, I love you, but you don't love me.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is a Republican political strategist who you can follow on X at The Thomas Guide. John Thomas, welcome.
Hey, John. Great to be with you as always.
Well, thanks so much for stopping by, and there's a ton to get through today. So let's start out with the topic that was batted around by the ladies on The View, and they took the position that you assumed that they would take, which is the totally insane position. And that is they had nothing but criticism for the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, who came out recently and said it shouldn't matter what gender you are. You should be required to do the same number of push-ups, the same number of pull-ups, run the mile in the same amount of time. You should meet all of the physical requirements that we require to be an agent or to be part of the military or everything under his umbrella. And you shouldn't get a break because of your gender. You shouldn't get a break for any reason that is supposed to bring about more diversity to the Department of War. Diversity is not the number one priority. The number one priority is to make sure that we have a Department of War that is prepared in the event that we need to use them for something. The ladies on The View, of course, were furious over this, saying that what he is going to do is going to make the military less diverse, and diversity is the number one goal, and not making sure that they can do the number of pull-ups or push-ups that we want them to be able to do. What do you make of the politics of this and the position that those on the left are taking, which just seems totally insane to me?
Well, this is consistent with what Secretary Hegseth in renaming the Department of Defense, the Department of War, is attempting to do. He's explaining to both current members, potential recruits, and the rest of the world that that department is a killing machine. They're there to protect the United States and be prepared to go to war at any moment, and we are the best in the world at that. And so he's trying to do an entire cultural switch in the department, which is good for every American citizen. And to see the left leaning in on this kind of woke DEI crap is really not surprising, as you said, but it's totally disappointing. And it's why prior to Hegseth and Trump, John, that the military was having a real recruitment issue because the kinds of people that might normally consider joining a branch of the military didn't, because they didn't believe that they fit in culturally with, the finest war machine in the world. So I think it's good that Hegseth is rebranding and repositioning this. It should be, you should have push-ups, physical tests, the appearance. It does matter. It does trickle throughout the agency and every single thing we do. So I think the woke left is totally out of touch here, and it continues. In fact, it's partially emasculating men, shaming the alpha men. It's partially why Trump won and the left lost, because most men are like, what the hell is this? This doesn't sync up with my version of masculinity that most Americans agree with.
And this is something that the left did at the municipal level long ago with things like fire departments and police departments, where they said, okay, if we want to make sure that the fire department isn't just a bunch of Irish guys, we have to make it so that women and other people can get in. So let's relax the standards so we can change the demographic makeup of the department. And you end up with a department where no one can do push-ups. Well, guess what? If someone needs to be dragged out of a burning building, it doesn't matter what your gender is. You need to be able to lift them and drag them out of the building, because that's what firefighters do.
That's the same point. I've seen it in fire departments. Another example is they deal with incredibly heavy ladders, not just the one affixed to the fire truck, but ladders that they have to put on the side of the building internally. And other firefighters, it's not just about being able to drag somebody out, John. It's being able to rely upon your teammates within that department to be able to do their job competently and effectively that can be life-saving for everybody else. And it's the same thing in the military. I don't know why we wouldn't want, as Americans, our military to be the fittest, the strongest, the most precise. It befuddles me that anybody wouldn't want to reward that. But look, this is the same left that thinks that trade in essentially identity politics. That's all they value, and so it's no surprise that they want their government agencies to be the same.
It's crazy to me that in certain circles they regard physical fitness as being a code word for right wing. I never thought I'd see that happen, but that's essentially the argument that they're making, isn't it?
It is, and I think it's because it fits into this idea that everybody is equal no matter the amount of muscle mass they have on their bodies or not, and it's just not true. In certain vocations, John, if you have more muscle mass, you are better at performing that task than somebody who's on hormone replacement therapy and has no muscle mass. That's just the nature of it. I don't think the left wants to admit that.
No, because then you have to acknowledge that people are different. Men are different than women. Right. Women are different than men. Big people are different than small people. And that's just one bridge too far for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. It undermines their whole ethos, and they're living in la-la land when it comes to that. It's like I cannot be and I can't be about an NBA basketball player. It's not in the cards for me. I'm not tall enough, and I'm okay with that. But let's accept that that's the fact, that in order to be a professional basketball player, you have to be very tall.
It's just part of the gig. Well, the talk in Washington, D.C. is about the government shutdown, the government not being open for business. Donald Trump appears to not be blinking right now as he negotiates with his Democratic counterparts. And the Trump administration now is warning of imminent job cuts coming as Democrats are now blocking the funding bill. Is this a backdoor way of remaking, whatever you want to call it, the deep state or the permanent bureaucracy, where so many of these people who have been obstinate and resistant to change, resistant to the will of the people, resistant to the results of a democratically held election, to say, okay, if we're going to shut the government down, now we can remake the federal government in a way that's more responsive to the people?
Yeah, it is. It's essentially Doge 2.0. I actually think it's brilliant to use this crisis, and it is a crisis, but to not let it be completely a waste. It's not just to gain leverage over the Democrats in order for the Republicans to be able to pass their bills, but it's a way to cull more fat from the government bureaucracy. Doge did some work, but this is another attempt to do that. You know, I'm watching really closely. I think the next 24 hours is going to be very instructive in terms of who's going to win the narrative on this shutdown. I think the Republicans so far have a bit of the upper hand in the sense that it appears that the Democrats are the ones that are causing the shutdown and being unreasonable. So it'll be interesting to see who kind of captures that narrative. And I think whoever does might signal that side's going to be the first. The other side that doesn't capture it may be the first to blink and negotiate something. Or we also may see a temporary funding approved for a week or so. So this thing may go on for some time.
One thing that I've seen, and this may be anecdotal from my own social media feed, is I've seen Democratic voters. I'm not talking about elected officials. I'm not talking about people who work professionally in politics, but just people who are on social media who have opinions. Democrats seem to be going after their own people. They seem to be not very happy with the performance of Chuck Schumer, who is the Democratic leader in the Senate, and Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader in the House. They seem to think that their Democratic leaders don't have the ability to fight or don't have the fight in their belly that they want them to have. And there is not a lot of unity going on right now over there. Are you seeing that too?
I am, and it's reflected in public opinion polling as well, that the rank and file Democrats, voters, don't believe that they have any real leader of the party right now. So it's really a reflection that they think their own side is weak. In fact, the number one trait that Democrats say that they're looking for in their next Democratic presidential nominee is the word fighter. That's why Gavin Newsom keeps trying to be a chameleon and he's now attempted to rebrand himself as this, firebrand figure when just, what was it, a couple months ago, John, he was middle of the road, kumbaya, let's have the other side on, and now he's positioning himself as a fighter. And that's because there is no leader of the Democratic Party. They have no clear message. Voters want that, but leadership has just failed to meet the moment time and time again.
We're speaking with John Thomas, who you can follow on X at The Thomas Guide. John, there are two off-cycle elections that people are paying attention to right now. Elections to determine who will be the next governor of Virginia and who will be the next governor of New Jersey. Both of those states were won in the last presidential election by Kamala Harris, albeit the margins were a lot closer than where the Democrats would like to see them. This time around, both of those gubernatorial elections are very, very close. Recent polls have showed the Democratic candidates with narrow leads, some of those leads being within the margin of error. But if you're the Democratic Party and there's a Republican in the White House in two bluish states, you should have a tremendous advantage over your opponents. And it looks like both of these races are going to be very close. What do you make of what we're seeing in those two states right now?
Well, that's right. It should be a blowout in favor of the Democrats in these states. So I don't necessarily expect a surprise for the Republicans to win. But if it is somewhat close, that really foreshadows what might happen in the midterms, which is there is a pathway for the Republicans to hold on. You compound that, John, with what's going on in New York City right now, with the fact that Mamdani, an avowed socialist, is likely to prevail. And that shows you that both the base of the left has shifted hard left, and the base, the general base of the left, is not enthusiastic about showing up to send a check and balance to Republicans in power. So all of these things are good foreshadowing for Republicans to try to hold on or minimize their losses in the midterms. And that's really been my key takeaway. And the other thing is, look, when you look at Mamdani, as sad as it is for New York City to have to deal with the socialists and further flight from New York City to places like Texas and Florida, look, the key in politics I've always found as a strategist is whichever side can create the clearest contrast typically prevails. And with elections like Mamdani, it creates a crystal clear contrast between what the Republicans are offering and what the Democrats are offering. And so I'd say that's a good thing, again, going into the midterms.
Do you think the foreshadowing goes beyond the midterms? And I say that because you mentioned Mamdani in New York City, who is the socialist, the avowed socialist, who is the Democratic nominee for mayor. According to all the public opinion polls, it looks like he's going to win and that race isn't going to be particularly close. Yet there are two more moderate candidates in New Jersey and Virginia seem to be producing zero enthusiasm. Mm-hmm. Do you think that is an indication as to where their primary for president is going, where all the juice right now is on the left wing of the party and the moderates just can't get anyone excited?
I do. I think the intensity is generated from the far left. That's why I think as you look towards the presidential primary, I think you're going to see 18 to 25 Democrats running loads of governors, et cetera. But the intensity really is on the far left, which tells you, John, an AOC-type candidate who is very popular amongst the far left base, is very authentic or thought to be authentic with the far left. Look, she may actually benefit in part from what Donald Trump benefited in 2016, which is what they call a high floor and a low ceiling. Look, if AOC comes to the party with 25, 30% of the electorate that's with her, that intensely shows out in caucus states, you could very easily find a scenario where an AOC is the next Democratic nominee, and then you find yourself, obviously, with probably a landslide on the Republican side.
Among Democratic voters nationally here, what percentage of them would you say would regard socialist as being a bad word at this point?
Oh gosh, I actually about a year ago I did a focus group on this topic because I was trying to understand that a little bit better. And believe it or not, so only about 30+% would identify as being a socialist. But when you nuance it, and what the question you asked specifically is the better question to ask, which is what percent of registered Democrats believe that socialist is a bad word? Believe it or not, John, you're only seeing like 20 to 25% of the electorate that believe that it's a, quote, bad word, which should be very concerning to the American population. That, backtrack a couple generations, that it would have been, 80+% of the base would have said it's a dangerous word. So it's not vilified in the same way, but the swing voters, the middle ground voters that decide these presidential contests, by and large, do think it's a bad word. That's why, while AOC may be, or Mamdani may be attractive in a primary, they're not particularly marketable in a general election.
What's crazy to me is that the flip side isn't true. If you have a huge chunk of Democratic voters who don't regard the word socialist as a bad word, I don't think you would find those same results in the Republican Party if you were to ask them, are you okay with a fascist being in charge of your party? I don't know any Republican who would say yes to that answer, but it seems like the Democrats are softening up to socialism.
Well, they are, because it really fits into their overall narrative. I mean, Barack Obama famously said, you didn't build that, which is essentially making the point that it was the village, it was the community, it was the government that really creates things and allows things to be created. And they've really the Democrat Party has really fit into this class warfare where they believe that if they just redistribute wealth from the 1%, everything will be okay. And it's really a sad statement to see that it's so widely accepted in the Democratic Party. But you're right, the reverse couldn't be. I mean, we don't even ask the fascist question in a political survey of Republicans, because why would we want to hear 99% to 1? It's not even a worthwhile question, to ask. So it is fascinating how far left the Democratic Party reminds me a bit more of like European folks rather than Americans.
Last question before you go. Let's talk about California here for a second, because the Democratic Party appears to be continuing to shop for candidates for governor, despite the fact that they have a very wide field. Katie Porter, the former congresswoman from Orange County, has consistently finished in first place in all the public opinion polls I've paid attention to. They don't seem to be comfortable with her being the likely governor here in the state of California, which is why they keep trying to find someone to jump in the race and beat her. So far, the two candidates who had the best chance to beat her, to my eye, Kamala Harris and the Lieutenant Governor, Eleni Kounalakis, have decided to pass on the race. Are we now looking at a scenario where the most likely result of the election is going to be that Katie Porter is going to be the next governor of California?
It is a great question, and if you're Katie Porter, what you need to do is run out the clock, because the longer it goes on, the harder it becomes for a credible challenger to mount an effective challenge against her. So I tend to think, John, because the Democratic establishment so loathes Porter and is desperate for a solution, that they're working in overdrive to find a self-funder. Perhaps like a Caruso or somebody who may not be their first choice, but it's certainly better than Porter as far as they're concerned. But outside of a self-funder, John, I'm starting to just get into the mechanics of a campaign, that it takes time to put together the infrastructure and the financial resources to mount a media blitz statewide. So look, at this point, it does appear to be Porter. I can't imagine, though, that the Democratic establishment is going to let her go effectively uncontested. But, you are seeing the other problem, John, is you're starting to see some lower tier figures like Barbara Boxer and otherwise, picking some of these lower caliber horses like Antonio Villaraigosa. So even the establishment is getting a little bit splintered. So if you're Porter, you just got to run out the clock. If you're the Californians, you got to pray somebody else gets in the race.
John Thomas, Republican political strategist. You can follow him on X at The Thomas Guy. John, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, with the end of the show quickly approaching, if you want to continue listening to us after we sign off at 3, that's easy to do.
All you got to do is search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts. Search for the Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Spotify. Search for the name, The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You could download all the episodes. You could do a Google on the YouTube. Get the free KABC app. Get the free KSFO app. Get the KMJ Now app and hear us Saturdays at 2 in the Central Valley. So many different ways to listen live to this radio station wherever you are. And thanks to podcasts, you can listen to the 3 hours a day that we do on your schedule whenever you want. Maybe you want to go back and listen to other Ed Lascos gems from the past.
About a suspect not armed with a gun or a knife, but lighter fluid and not afraid to torch anything.
All right. So we know that one of the reasons that cities are broke in California, well, it's because of lawsuit payouts. People sue cities, and cities have deep pockets to pay out when they lose in court or when they decide to settle a case. Well, it's not just Los Angeles that has to deal with this mess. So do other cities, including the city of Oakland.
And Oakland just made a record-breaking $7 million settlement to a bicyclist that crashed out on a pothole.
Not hit by a city vehicle, but crashed due to a pothole.
For more, here's KTVU, Fox 2 in the Bay.
New at 6, a bicyclist is being rewarded $7 million in a lawsuit against the city of Oakland after he was seriously injured after hitting a pothole. The cyclist was training for an organized ride back in 2017 when he crashed on Skyline Boulevard. KTVU's Crystal Bailey live tonight here in studio with how this case could set new precedent for road safety. Crystal.
Well, Mike, the $7 million settlement takes the cake for the highest amount paid out to an injured bicyclist in Oakland.
And I'm sure that number will be higher next year.
Give it time.
The city paid $6.5 million in 2 different pothole bike crashes in 2023 and 2024, but this time it went all the way to the California Supreme Court.
You know, you think about how many potholes are in Oakland. You think about how much they're paying out for all these settlements, and it's not really a surprise that you get to a city that has a $100 million budget deficit every year. Cities are not budgeted for this, but they also don't do anything about it. The city of LA specifically sets aside money that they know is going to go to lawsuits, but they don't ever fix the underlying problem, which in LA is usually the dilapidated sidewalks.
Well, here's a question. If you could sue them successfully, citing negligence, if you injure yourself when you hit a pothole as a bicyclist, if you apply that same logic to motorists, then doesn't the city owe you money every time you blow a tire or every time your car gets knocked out of alignment because of a pothole?
You know, the last time I rode my bicycle on the streets of Los Angeles, I was on the LA River bike path, which sure sounds pretty, but in practice is a bike path that's in between the homeless encampment known as the LA River that doesn't have any water on it and the 134 freeway. And that was the last time I ever rode my bike because my tires popped from all the broken glass from the homeless people.
Ty Whitehead was training for an AIDS ride in the Oakland Hills back in March of 2017 when he wiped out on a pothole. It was a designated bike trail on Skyline Boulevard and a route he'd taken many times before.
I was training to ride to LA and it was in Oakland just riding on the road.
But he was going to ride from Oakland to LA?
Isn't he aware of Southwest Airlines?
Well, I think it was a charity thing, but that is one sore patootie.
I was training to ride to LA and it was in Oakland just riding on the road and I woke up in the hospital.
He says the accident not only took away his favorite pastime, but also his ability to work.
My life has fundamentally changed in so many ways. I loved my job and I was there for 11 years and I don't do that anymore.
How bad was this accident?
Yeah, no kidding. Did he do a somersault or something?
His attorneys say he signed a liability waiver that made this case tricky. The city of Oakland...
Wait, why would he do that?
There had to be more money in it.
The city of Oakland argued it had no responsibility for the crash. But after years of litigation on May 1st, the California Supreme Court ruled in Whitehead's favor, setting new precedent for biker protections.
The Supreme Court made clear that cities and counties can't get out of their responsibility to maintain safe roads.
Every single city manager, every single city administrator in every major city in the state should be following this case, because if it is now easier to sue over injuries that may or may not have been caused by the city, every city is going to be bankrupt next year.
But again, though, I go back to my previous point. Why is there a distinction between bicyclists and motorists? If the city's negligence causes you harm, shouldn't the city be responsible for all of it?
Yes, they should.
The bicyclist community fought alongside Whitehead, including attorney Shahana Rahman, who submitted a brief on behalf of the California Bike Coalition, the San Francisco Bike Coalition, and Bike East Bay.
There is the fact that the bike people are very organized.
Oh, yeah, because they're all dentists.
She says the injuries like Whitehead's are all too common.
If cities do not address the underlying systemic failures of their road, and just keep patching it, then you have the need to continue patching.
The lawsuit breaks the record.
There's going to be an actuary that's going to start weighing all these costs and say, you know what? Rip it all out. We're going back to dirt.
And bring back the horses and buggies while you're at it.
The lawsuit breaks the record for the highest paid settlement over potholes in Oakland and totals the amount paid by Oakland to roughly $34 million since 2018.
In just 7 years, Oakland has paid $35 million in just pothole lawsuit settlements.
How do you not end up bankrupt if that's how you're spending your money?
Well, they are.
To roughly $34 million since 2018, more than any other Bay Area city.
I hope Oakland just realizes that it's cheaper to repair the roads than to keep paying cyclists.
While the city of Oakland had no comment on Whitehead.
San Francisco would have a similar fate, but there's a lot of bicyclists that would be insane to ride in San Francisco because of those hilly streets.
Okay, go back to that argument that they just made, where it's cheaper to pay out the lawsuits than to fix the roads. Isn't that what Southern California Edison and PG&E did?
Why, yes, it is. It is cheaper to settle with fire victims than to pay to underground the power lines. That's the actuarial decision that they have made. City of Los Angeles, same thing. It would cost a certain amount of money to fix all the sidewalks, but we'd be better off if we just wait till someone hurts themselves, not fix the sidewalk, and pay the lawsuit.
That appears to be the way we do business here in California.
And it's so short-sighted because these liability payouts are only getting more often and they're only getting bigger. And if they would have just borrowed money when interest rates were at zero and fixed the problem, we wouldn't be having this issue.
While the city of Oakland had no comment on Whitehead's case, and back in 2024, Director of Public Works Josh Rowan estimated the department fills 25,000 potholes a year. The city of Oakland is expected to pay Whitehead on October 7th.
Well, the city also says the Public Works Department is looking at making repairs to frequent bike routes and encourages residents to submit requests for pothole work through 311.
Yes, because they definitely answer it for illegal dumping, so I'm sure they answer it for potholes.
How is the city going to come up with the money to pay this guy? Aren't they claiming they're having a difficult time making payroll?
Maybe they'll offer him a piece of the Coliseum.
Him too?
Public Works has a designated team, they say, at looking at pothole submissions. Crystal Bailey, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
So there you go. The city of Oakland in the hole for $7 million after a bicyclist wiped out on a pothole on a bike path.
800-222-5222 is your telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. And right now it's time to open up the California Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
And we are all in luck today because this edition is an Ed Laskos edition.
And it's on like Donkey Kong.
The theft stories going on in Los Angeles are getting really weird. Somebody stole 2 hawks from SoFi Stadium, hawks that were employed to keep all the other birds away from pooping on football fans.
And they were stolen?
Yes. For more, here's Fox 11 and Ed Laskos.
Authorities are asking for the public's help in tracking down 2 trained hawks.
They say that these hawks were stolen from SoFi Stadium during Sunday's Rams game. Let's go live to Fox 11's Ed Laskos in Inglewood now with more. There's actually a suspect, Ed.
Yeah, Marla, they are looking for these 2 hawks, and that search is growing more desperate, as I was saying, by the very hour, because they've got to be fed by
Wait, whoever's stealing the birds isn't feeding them? What the hell's going on here?
That's cruelty to animals.
By Thursday, or it could be very life-threatening for these 2 birds. In any event, the search is on. There's even a reward now being posted for their safe return. Let's get to it. To the video we go. As you were talking about it, these 2 hawks named Alice and Bubba were...
Bubba the Hawk.
That's quite a name for a bird.
Were being used over at SoFi Stadium during the Rams game last Sunday. They're used to fly around and chase away the other birds so those birds don't menace the crowd. In any event, they're in their cages in a sports utility.
I'd love to know who figured that was a thing that they needed at SoFi.
In any event, they're in their cages in a sports utility vehicle, a UTV. Someone jumps into that vehicle, drives off with the vehicle and the 2 hawks. That vehicle the UTV found abandoned earlier today over near the stadium over at Century and Avalon, but no sign of the 2 hawks. Now, they did find 2 dead birds in that vehicle, quails, dead quails. They were used as food for the hawks. But
what is going on here?
My guess is this is someone who planned this out and knows something about birds and decided that they were going to try to pull it off, and apparently they were successful.
But no sign of Alice, no sign of Bubba. They are still missing. They're searching right now, and the owner of the bird says they really got to find them by Thursday. They have to be fed, because other than that, they could be facing some very difficult times. Listen.
They were, on the higher end of their working weight when they were taken, and, that working weight is dwindling off, and they're going to get into a critical weight probably in the next 24 to 48 hours, and then after that, it's, it'll just be lights out for them.
Well, what if they decide to start eating their captor?
That's always a possibility.
If you see my birds, they look like little golden eagles is what they look like. They have a very pronounced beak with yellow on their...
Is there some black market for stolen birds that I don't know about? What is the purpose here?
Well, what have we learned from the crime blotter? There's a black market for everything.
Yellow on their cere and around their, around the beak. And then the thing that's really striking about them is that their tail is kind of a long tail. It's mostly black, and it has a white band on the bottom of it.
And now, Lavi was saying you can't miss them if you see these 2 hawks. And another sign he was saying is you'll see the other birds maybe flying around. They'll be in distress because they don't like the hawks being in their space, in their airspace, if you will.
How do you keep the hawks from flying away?
That's a real good question.
In any event, the search goes on. They want to find these birds. There's a $1,000 reward now being offered.
That's not going to do anything.
No, it's not.
Only $1,000. I'm sure these birds cost way more than $1,000.
We'd have to look up what the going rate is for a hawk.
The mayor down here in Inglewood, James T. Butt's involved with all of that, so they're trying to find the birds, worry that their time could be running out. So, ladies, it's really a search right now. They've gotten a lot of leads. Police here in Inglewood's following up on the leads, getting a lot of calls. Even Charlie, the fellow you were just listening to there, he's getting a lot of calls. 2 people saying, are these your birds? Could they be over here? But they're searching right now in that area where they found that abandoned UTV, that utility vehicle over at Avalon and Century in that area. They're thinking the suspect they're looking for could be living in that area, and that's where the search is for the suspect and, of course, for those 2 hawks.
So there's a bird napper on the loose in Inglewood, everybody.
I think I've seen somewhere that there's an entire market out there for exotic animals that you're not supposed to be able to buy. But for whatever reason, people want to buy them. And if you find the right shady character, you can.
Now, Johnny, that wasn't the only bizarre theft in Los Angeles yesterday. Shall we reopen the blotter?
Let's do it.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
In Brentwood, somebody stole the statue of a dinosaur at a Sinclair gas station.
They stole a dinosaur?
Yes. For more, here's KTLA.
Up and put in the back of a truck, and the brazen theft is all caught on camera. The middle of the night theft, what has outraged the Brentwood community. Even actress Jamie Lee Curtis has joined the effort to get it back.
Sandra Mitchell is live in Brentwood with more surveillance video of that crime. Sandra.
Yeah, bring back the dinosaur. That's what people have been yelling from their cars as they pass by tonight. You know, the folks here are...
We live in a weird time.
What was that movie, Wizard Kid, from the 1990s, starring Fred Savage, where they went to that gas station out in the Coachella Valley that has the huge dinosaur?
Brentwood just loved this dinosaur. That spot behind us, that's the spot where the thief ripped the statue right out of the ground. From his bunny ears to his Dodger blue, the Sinclair dinosaur was a Brentwood favorite.
It's a beloved dinosaur from Brentwood. All the kids loved it. And
the landmark in Brentwood is the statue of a mascot for a gas station.
I guess even gas stations need mascots.
It's a beloved dinosaur from Brentwood. All the kids loved it. And here it is. Come Saturday, dinosaur's gone.
For 6 years, the 4-foot fiberglass dino stood at the Sinclair station on San Vicente at 26th Street. But now he's extinct.
Oh, God.
You knew that was coming.
Yep.
This prehistoric prankster in a hoodie crept across the parking lot with a power tool early Saturday morning.
That's insane. That's commitment, though.
The thief cuts the bolts from the ground, wraps the 50-pound brontosaurus in a blanket, and then loads it into a pickup truck and pulls away.
Maybe it's the same guy that stole the hog.
We're getting phone calls. We're getting people coming over here and asking about it. It's been a whole deal.
The service station has been flooded with phone calls and flowers. Actress Jamie Lee Curtis and others posting about it on social media.
We loved it. We walk past it every day and every season.
I guess there's really nothing to do in Brentwood.
Well, now that OJ's gone, it's quiet again.
He would decorate it. The owner would decorate it in different ways. It was so fun. I was so sad.
Keith Salmon had the dinosaur in his office for 30 years. It was red back then, but he wanted to share the smiles. So he sold it to the gas station owner, who painted it green and put it right out front.
There's a big, long red light there, and I can shoot a picture coming off San Vicente at the people. They're always stopping there.
And now LAPD has launched an investigation to find this very long-necked victim.
Oh, my goodness. This is embarrassing.
Mark it too.
The person who took it, if you see my message, just bring the dinosaur back at 2:30 in the morning and just leave it there and walk away.
No questions asked. Just bring back the dino.
Oh, they'll be back at 2:30 in the morning, all right. But not to drop off the dinosaur. If they're there at 2:30 in the morning, that means you're going to be missing your ATM too.
This dino napping seems to be a trend across the nation. Similar dinosaurs stolen from service stations in Utah, Texas, and Colorado. And we checked, some of them are on sale on eBay for up to $6,000.
I guess you're right. There is a black market for everything.
Okay, if they're selling it on eBay, though, theoretically, can't you catch them?
You'd think so, but what do you think the internet's for? It's for selling illegally stolen goods.
And porn. All right, that's going to do it for us today, but we'll be back tomorrow at noon for another edition of The John Phillips Show.